So 13.3, complex rational expressions and then special right triangles we will talk about. Who remembers how to do complex fractions? Okay, what do we do, Cody? Okay, so that is one way. You can multiply by the reciprocal, meaning you would flip 4 over 19 and do that to both the top and the bottom. Does anybody know another way that we solve these complex fractions? What? Yeah, you find the LCD of the LCD of the entire problem. So I think that ends up being the easiest way, but whichever way you guys want to do is fine. So what would be the LCD of this problem? 4. So what you do is you have to multiply 4 to every term. So I'm going to put right here, LCD is 4. So there only is 2 fractions in this problem. If I multiply by 4, see how 2 goes into 4 2 times, right? And 2 times 7 is 14. So we have 14 on the top. With my denominator fraction, the 4's cancel, and I'm left with 19. And can 14 over 19 reduce? No. So that is my answer. Pretty crazy. What? This was supposed to be LCD. Not sure what happened there. Okay. All right. So least common denominator. So example 2. What would be my LCD on example 2? Good. It'd have to be x squared y. Because you have to have at least as large as the bottom is. Does that make sense? Okay. So that means now that I know what my LCD is, where do I go? Good. You go to every single fraction in the problem and write x squared y. Okay, so on the top, what ends up happening? Okay, the x's, one of the x's cancel, but I'm still left with an x, right? And then the y cancels. And so what am I left with totally on the top? 3x. Good. The denominator, everything cancels out, and I'm left with 7. Is there anything else I can do? Nope. There's your answer. Okay, example 3. What's going to be my LCD on this problem? It's going to end up being a times a plus 1, and I'm not sure if that's what you said or not. The reason is, if I were to just multiply this by a plus 1, the a plus 1 would cancel on this one, but a plus 1 and the a, those couldn't cancel because the a was connected to a 1, right? So you need both the a and the a plus 1. So we'll write a and a plus 1 next to each of these. So on the top, what happens? A's cancel, and we have a plus 1 times 1, which is just... Okay, then we go to the denominator, and what happens? A plus 1's cancel out, and we're left with 2a. Can I cancel this a with this a? No. Okay, it has to be like multiplying. You have to cancel out everything if there's an adding. Okay, so this is your answer. You can't do anything else. Okay, questions? All right, let's move on. So what would be my least common denominator on example 4? Just y. Now notice here there are now 4 terms. Every single term we have to multiply by the y. So I'm going to write a y next to everything. And let's see if you can finish this. Okay, so what did you guys end up getting as your answer? Well, let's see, because I think the answer is x. Did anybody just get x? Okay, I think that you guys are right. Okay, so when we do that, this doesn't cancel at all, so I just have xy. Do we agree? For the first, right here. On the second term, what happens? Y's cancel, and we're just left with x. Okay, over. We go to the bottom. Y times 1 is just y, plus here the y's cancel, and I'm just left with 1. Now, we always check to see if we can do anything further. What do you notice? You can take out an x on the top. When I do that, I get y plus 1, because I divide this by x and this by x. Those cancel, 1. Over, I have y plus 1. And what do we notice? Exactly. So my answer is just x. Okay? Did you guys see where you went wrong? Some of you? Okay. Questions? All right, example 5. What is going to be my least common denominator? Very good. A plus 1, A minus 1 is correct. So again, there's 4 terms, so I'm going to have to write it 4 times. I write it next to everything because usually I don't make mistakes if I write it all out. Do you guys want to try to finish it on your own? Or should we go through it together? Okay, I'll give you a minute. If you get your answer, raise your hand. I'll come check it. Let's see, because maybe it is that. Maybe it is negative 1. Okay, let's check this out. Okay, so what happens here on the first term? Top left, what happens? A plus 1's cancel out, and we have 1 times A minus 1, which is just A minus 1. Okay, so check your work as we're going through this. The next term, A minus 1's cancel, and I have left 1 times A plus 1. So I have plus A plus 1. These are not multiplying, okay? They're like adding together. Do we all agree? Okay, let's go to the denominator. A plus 1's cancel. 1 times A minus 1 is A minus 1. And then this time there's a minus sign. A minus 1's cancel out, and I have left A plus 1. Okay, now this is where I think some of you have messed up. These are not multiplying, they're adding. I can't cancel these because there are plus and minuses in between. What is A plus A? 2A. What does negative 1 and positive 1 make? 0. Top's done. We get 2A on the top. Go to the denominator. This is now subtracting, which means I need to do what? Distribute the negative through. Okay, so I have A minus 1 still in front, and then I have a negative A and a negative 1. Do we agree? Okay. So A and negative A, those end up canceling out. A minus A, gone. What's negative 1 and negative 1? Negative 2. Okay, now what can happen? Yeah, the 2's can cancel out, right? Because they're multiplying. And then we end up with our answer is what? Negative A. Oops, and you can't see what I wrote. Okay, do we see where we went wrong? Do we see why we can't cancel out some of those things that some of you canceled out? Okay, because if it's adding or subtracting, it's only multiplying where we can cancel them. Okay? All right. Are we ready for special triangles? Do you guys remember special triangles?
Yeah.
Okay, so 30, 60, 90 triangles. Remember, across from the 30 is your A. 60 is A root 3 or root 3 times A, and then across from the C or the 90 is 2A. Okay, on the 45, 45, 90, both of your sides with the 45 angles are A's, and your hypotenuse across from the 90 is A root 2. A meaning whatever number that happens to be. Okay, so it says find the sine of 60, cosine of 60, tangent of 60. First of all, if 30 is 4, if you go to 30, that means that's your A value, right? So 4 is that side, which means across from my 60 is your root 3 times A. So what would be right here? What value? 4 root 3 is correct. And then across from my 90 is 2A, which means it would be 8. Oftentimes, like, let's say you were given this side, you would end up writing like A root 3 equals 8. And you'd have to divide and figure out what A equals. Does that make sense, where you can set up an equation? Okay, so sine of 60 degrees. If you need to, write out your SOHCAHTOA. So we know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So if you go to 60 degrees, opposite is 4 root 3 over, and your hypotenuse is 8. And can I reduce anything? So we end up with root 3 over 2 for the sine of 60. Okay. Cosine of 60. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So what is adjacent to 60? 4 over hypotenuse, which is 8, and then that reduces to 1/2. And then last, we have the tangent of 60. So tangent is what? Okay, and what's opposite? And adjacent? And those reduce, and my answer is root 3. Okay, questions? No?